I don't want this part to be recorded.
Right.
Welcome to Let's Be Real, Let's Get Raw, our very first edition, coming to you weekly on YouTube. So if you'd like to subscribe, be sure to tap the button and tap the bell so that you can be notified of next week's video. On today's video, we have the lovely Teresa Sanders, who is our first guest. She will be sharing her incredible story and testimony on how she overcame depression and now thrives, #overcomer. For the past 30 years, she has worked as a registered nurse and now devotes her time to helping 40-something women entrepreneurs overcome depression so they can find their focus, derail distractions, and slay, I almost said stay, and slay their goals. So welcome, Teresa. I am super excited to have you as our first guest on Let's Be Real, Let's Get Raw. Tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This is definitely very exciting. Like you said, I've been an RN for about 30 years and recently have stepped back from nursing. This is the second time in my life I've stepped back from nursing, really because of depression. There's a lot of stress in that kind of work, and it really just wasn't serving me well. So I have made the decision to help people in a different way, which is a lot of fun. I'm also, in addition to being a nurse, I'm a wife, I'm a Grammy to 6, I'm a homesteader, dairy goat farmer, cheesemaker, all that kind of fun stuff.
How awesome. I love the goats. The little baby goats, they run after you and chase after you.
Yeah, lots of fun.
So you're on an emotional healing journey. What did you exactly overcome with the depression?
I think that's a great question. And I was reflecting on that just a little bit earlier. And I don't know that I'm so much, I call myself an overcomer, but I don't know that I have truly overcome depression or if I've just learned to dance with it, because it's something that's definitely going to be a part of my life for the long haul. But my journey was one that was very painful, took me out of the workforce for 3 years. I was unable to work for 3 years as a nurse, and just required a lot of sometimes very painful talking and a willingness to go to the very hard places to come out of it. So
yeah, it is hard. Do you find yourself going back into it? And you said you were not able to work for 3 years. What was that like?
Oh goodness. That was, going from a full-time RN salary to no salary for 3 years was very challenging in and of itself. And not to mention, at the time, my husband and I had owned our own hospice nursing agency. We also owned an aging care home in this community. And so suddenly all of that was just gone. It was just something that I couldn't do anymore, and my husband could not do it alone. So we had to make some really big changes to be able to care for me and help me come out of that space. It was a time of a lot of questioning and, quite honestly, going sometimes from counselor to counselor to find the right fit, doctor to doctor, because of various snafus in the healthcare system. And there was a point in that 3 years that I actually considered getting on disability. I did not believe I'd ever work again. And so thankfully, God is good. We can renew ourselves and restore ourselves. And I am here today able to still contribute to society.
Yes. And you're contributing from your heart, I understand. So what made you want to change, or what was the pivot point that caused you to change?
The pivot point for me, I don't know that I ever would have stopped being a high achiever, type A personality, always juggling multiple things. I don't know that I ever would have stopped. It really took God to kind of cut me off at the knees and just say, you know what, you're not going to do this anymore. I don't know how else I can reach you to tell you I don't want you doing this anymore, other than all of a sudden in 2011, I couldn't get out of bed anymore. And going from a woman who was always double booked, I was a nursing continuing education provider. I had speaking engagements every week. I was on the radio with ads, you name it. I was doing it. And, to run the hospice, the care home, and a foundation was just something I took in stride and totally thought I enjoyed. Um, but when my depression really hit me, I just couldn't get out of bed anymore. And it really just hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit us all that way. And my husband found himself finding nurses to cover what I needed to do. And and from there, that was my pivot point. That was what caused me to change, was truly just not being able to do it anymore. Um, Otherwise, I don't know when I would have stopped.
What what kind of tools did you implement? You said you went to counselors and you tried to, but what was the one thing that made you get out of bed? You said you suffered with it for 3 years.
Hmm.
So what was that one thing that you finally said, that's it, I'm getting up out of bed and I'm doing this?
Hmm. Hmm. That in itself was a long process, and but I could get out of bed. I just couldn't necessarily do anything during the day. And when I say I couldn't get out of bed, it was usually might be noon, might be 1 o'clock when I finally got out of bed. It was just really, really hard times. But the things that helped me the most were, I had a dear friend, of course, who was our hospice medical director, and he made a referral for me to see a counselor and a psychiatrist in Kansas City because I wanted total anonymity. That is 90 minutes from our home one way, and my husband would drive me 3 times a week to make sure I got to my appointments. My thing was, I was conscious enough as a nurse to know I am truly very sick, and I was willing to cooperate with a treatment plan. And I think it takes a lot of, it takes many people a lot of time to get there. But thankfully, as a nurse, I recognized I am just very, very sick and I need this help. And so talk therapy was a big thing. But I'll be honest, my first therapist wasn't a good fit. And we reached a point where I had to make a switch. The first psychiatrist wasn't a great fit. Um, and at the point that I was on the brink of disability, I had just made the switch to see another gal in Topeka who was a nurse practitioner. And I told her, I walked in and said, I don't know what you can do for me because I'm on the brink of applying for Social Security disability. I don't believe I can ever work as a nurse again. And she said to me, Teresa, give me 90 days. Those were life-saving words because nobody had ever put a timeline on what they thought they could do for me. It was just, take this and wait, 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 wait. Well, wait for what? It's hard when you have a mental illness. And so, anyway, that was definitely the turning point. But being consistent with going to talk therapy, it's hard to go those places. It's hard to know that you're going to go sit in that chair and go those hard places for an hour. So you have to have that willingness to push yourself through that. And you also need a really good guide. You have to have a therapist that you trust who's going to be with you not only to take you into it, but guide you out. Um, and then in addition to that, medications. I used medications, and later I learned about a lot of wonderful natural therapies like essential oils, of course, and then also some wonderful herbal teas like hibiscus tea and chamomile tea that are just so very calming. So, anyway.
So in the 90-day program, what did you said you call it talk therapy? So did she give you homework? Did you, like, what kind of things were you responsible for improving to get from A to Z in those 90 days?
Oh, and it was, when I talk about talk therapy, I am still a part of it. This is something that is just part of my ongoing self-care. I pick it up and lay it down as I need it. But within the last year, I've had a lot more stress in my life. And so I've picked up talk therapy again. But the kind of things that I was doing, she had me create self-care plans for myself. And I learned how to recognize my triggers for anxiety, my triggers for more depressive symptoms. I learned how to manage overwhelm so that I could continue to do things. And so those kind of things were my homework, was to just check in with myself every day and say, how are you feeling? And then look at why. Why do you feel that way? Maybe what caused you to have the anxiety, and just really kind of getting to know myself, from the outside in kind of.
Well, that's awesome. I love that. So you still go back to it. You still, when you feel those feelings of depression, what kind of warning signs do you get now versus before? So before I imagined, because I also suffer from depression and anxiety, and it's a daily battle to, especially I have SAD. So the sad
Okay.
days, I have to really fight to be positive. So before, when you were depressed, you would kind of stay in bed, not want to participate in, the world,
Hmm.
I guess.
Hmm.
And now you're able to thrive. You're able to, get up out of bed every day, look gorgeous like
Yep.
you do
Oh.
all the things that you do as you help people. So what's the one thing, if you could give somebody advice on how to keep going every single day to fight that depression, what would be the one thing that you would tell them to do?
Oh my goodness. And there's a lot of things included in this one thing, but the biggest message I have is fill your cup first.
Hmm.
Fill your cup first, because if you put yourself last, and in nursing, we always do it. We might not use the bathroom for 12 hours because we're taking care of everybody else,
That's a
so
long time.
yeah, but it's like put yourself first, because you can't do the things that you need to do in your life if you come to other people with an empty cup. If I can't serve anybody if I don't have a full cup.
What would you should suggest for them to take me time to take care of themselves, to fill their cup up first?
Oh, I love that. I think there are a few things, and some are just very simple. Eat right. Okay. Eat right. Get a mild amount of exercise every day. When I first, and everybody was saying exercise, exercise, you get those endorphins pumping. Well, for somebody who's crying on the couch all day, that's really hard. So when I read what NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, said, they said all you need is a 10% increase in activity to really have benefit. And I thought, man, I can do that. I can do that. So another thing about self-care is reasonable goals, but also eating right, getting a mild amount of exercise, adding some steps to your day where you can, and making sure that you get good rest. If there's something that's impeding your rest, really take a hard look at that, because when we don't have these basic things covered, the rest of the day just suffers. Um, and then along with that, I would say be intentional. Be intentional in your living. And when you think about intentional living, that means I will carve out time for myself. I will take care of myself. I am living very purposefully. And so that when you live intentionally, it kind of means I take full ownership of who interacts with me and how. I take full ownership of what ends up on my calendar. Is it going to be life giving or life draining? All different kinds of things. So that's kind of it.
Awesome tips. I love that. Me time is so important, and I know a lot of us tend not to take me time. So everyone who's listening out there, be sure you carve out a minimum of 30 minutes a day to take care of yourself, so you can pour it out into others. Well, thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing your journey. It's awesome. And I understand you have an awesome program that you want to share with us.
I do. I have just recently launched my positive and purposeful planning system that is all about intentional living. And what it does is, I really consider this planning system to be my number one way of beating overwhelm, anxiety, and overcoming depression. This is it. Because what you will learn in this is how to make a 30,000-foot view of the next year. You get to project out for the next year. And if you've never done an annual plan, it's kind of nice to look at, oh my gosh, the next year is truly a gift. And what do I want to put in it? What do I want to put in it? And come December 31st of next year, how do I want to feel? What kind of memories do I want to look back on? I think all too often we just kind of dive into life and we just go. It's kind of like being in the washing machine. But this gives you an opportunity to set some goals for the year on what you're going to do, who you're going to visit with, home remodeling, whatever. And then I'll teach you how to do a weekly plan where you identify your 3 vital goals, most vital goals for the week, and then daily planning, so that you identify your daily vital 3 goals, so that if all chaos breaks out and you cannot focus on your day, as long as you focus on those daily vital 3, you are going to move your business forward every single day. So, for this group, this planning system comes with all the tools that you need. You never have to buy another planner again. You will fully own the tools. You can print them and use them as you need them. And it gets a fully guided course from me. Is $77 retail, but when you use the promo code of fall 2020, you're going to get it for $37 just because you're in this group for the next 48 hours. So there you go.
Wow, that's awesome. That's very generous. I love that concept of
Yeah.
the 3 goals, because I know a lot of times people try to over plan, and you have your to-do list with 15 things, and before you know it, it's overwhelming and you put it aside and not accomplished one. So that makes it really manageable, those SMART goals. So awesome.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you so much for joining us,
Yeah.
and everyone out there, thank you for taking the time to listen to be here. And the link below, or in the comments below, is a link to Teresa's course. Get it quick for the next 48 hours. You get a great deal on it. It's going to plan out your whole year and give you the tools that you need to help you be a hashtag overcomer. So, thank you for joining. Until next week.